Welcome home, neighbors, to episode 245 of the My DVC Points podcast. And it's a joint airing episode again because the news is so hot. So, Shannon, go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, so this is a DVC newscast episode 111. And obviously, we've got Chad joining us today for a special guest appearance or joint episode. And we also got Pete.
Hello.
And Sue.
Hi there.
And we got a lot of news to cover. And I think one topic is probably going to dominate most of the news and most of the episode. But before we do that, and this is probably our sponsors, one you might be visiting because of our first topic, and that is DVC Resale Market. If you are looking to maybe purchase a DVC contract, maybe a Grand Californian one.
Spoiler alert, Grand Cals are all sold out. They instantly sold after this news broke.
Pretty
they have
much.
No Grand Cal on the shelves.
And you can hit up our friends at DVC Resale Market, or maybe if you are looking to sell a contract, or maybe you want to sell your Grand Cal contract and sell it for a lot of money, you can hit up our friends at the DVC Resale Market. So obviously, I think we know what our first story is, and that is that the sales details have been released on the villas at the Disneyland Hotel. Chad, why don't you take this one? Because I think this is you're fired up.
Yeah, so I am, spoiler alert as well, I'm here to rant because for years now, for 5 years, we've all been waiting for this tower to get built. We've started a Facebook group for every brand new resort. We kind of start a Facebook group up to welcome new members in that are into the community. So for 5 years, we've been growing this Facebook group. We've got about 800 people in there that are interested in buying the Disneyland Hotel Tower. And I can just tell you on behalf of the group and everything that I'm seeing in that group, all of our posts, disappointment is the word that sums it all up. We are so disappointed. We had our bubbles burst. We had such high hopes for this resort, and it's just failing flat 20 ways from Sunday.
Yeah, I'm probably not as committed as you are, but yes, it definitely was like I'm definitely taking a pause on it. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I sold 200 Grand Cal points in anticipation of this opening because I needed it for the down payment here on this Florida house. And now I have seller's regret like you would not believe after looking at what they did. Pete, what's your initial thoughts? Bring us some sunshine here, Pete.
Well, I mean, we got to go through everything, particularly talking about this transient tax, which I don't think anyone's transient occupancy tax, which I don't think anyone is happy about. But it isn't slowing me down. Now I was only considering a 50-point contract. So, but you know, DVC is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Direct sale DVC is ridiculous. Riviera was completely ridiculous. The point charts for this are lower than Riviera. Compare them. So all those people that bought Riviera, yes, I know you're not paying the transient tax, but all those people that bought Riviera bought a resort that's next to that has a view of a moderate, that's not next to any park, and costs so many points. And then this comes out and it's like, oh my God, it's so expensive. It's like, yes, you're in California at one of 3 Disney hotels. None of, I said, other than the tax, nothing else surprised me. So I don't know.
Okay, Sue, what's your thoughts here?
Well, the thing is, I'm just surprised a couple of things on this. One, that they're going to have the resale restriction on this property like they do at Riviera. I think the Riviera sales had been slowed down because of that. And I can only see that happening here. And then on top of it, put the price, put the transient tax, and then read that fine print of you may be charged for parking. Yeah. So you add all those things together, it really doesn't make it that desirable. You know, I know California is expensive. I know it's next to the Disneyland Hotel, but people who have bought the Grand Cal are sitting there smiling.
The Grand
So-
Cal owners are sitting here laughing, and they've just got that Cheshire cat grin right now. Okay.
Yep.
Because they're coming out of this thing smelling like a rose. Now, I expected the resale restrictions.
I did too.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was like par for the course. And I've been saying for years that would not phase me because you only buy Grand Cal today to stay at Grand Cal. So
Right.
to have resale restrictions on here, I don't like them. I have heard some internal rumors and discussions that they considered not going forward with them because they have been so negative over
Mhm.
at Riviera. But they also looked at it like, this is our only shot to sell Disneyland. We're probably not going to get another timeshare here. We might as well
Right.
corporate greed this and take everything that we can.
Mhm.
And from what I'm understanding and seeing, the corporate greed thing is here. And just to pick up on your parking comment there, wasn't it like less than 2 months ago, we had new CEO Iger on air coming back in and saying, yeah, guys, we got a little bit greedy in what we were doing. So we're getting rid of all the parking fees in Walt Disney World. And then to
Right.
come to a product like DVC that has historically had, including parking, because they sold us the parking lot and they charge us to maintain the parking lot. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to charge us for parking. To come back in and now exclude this and say, oh, in fine print, by the way, you guys are going to be paying for parking.
Yeah.
Lead balloon, guys.
Well, let's go in through the entire like some of the
Let's
bullet
go through
points
the
here.
list. Let's go
Yeah.
through the list a little bit here.
So
Pull me back in, Shannon.
Points are gonna go on sale May 2nd for existing members, and then on May 30th, anybody that is not a DVC owner will be able to purchase then. The opening price is listed at $230 per point, which is $13 more than the current price for new Walt Disney World properties. So I guess right now Riviera and Grand Floridian are $217. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So the opening price for membership dues will be $9.05 a point.
Holy cow.
Hi.
And we're not sure if that's going to be a 2023 or 2024 rate, but that is the membership dues. And obviously that is only going to go up. The transient occupancy tax for which I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up. For 2023 is approximately $2.73 per point. And that's and then in 2024, it's going to approximately be $2.82 per point. The point charts are available for 2023 and 2024. And note that the range for all categories are lower than the ranges for the Grand Californian, though some individual dates are slightly higher. So you have like a duo studio. There's nothing really to compare there at Grand Californian, but it's 76 to 118 points per week. And then the duo studio for garden is
these ranges. I wrote these ranges up, but they don't include the major holidays. So they don't
major
include
holiday weeks.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, because those particular weeks are way higher. So I wanted to give a more realistic range for the average person that
Right.
might not be going for a holiday. So
Right.
So if you're going on a holiday, it's going to be way more than these numbers.
So we'll have these listed in the show notes, but a deluxe studio standard is 97 to 174 points. And then a preferred is 113 to 195. And then the garden view is 141 to 225.
Yeah,
And
there's
then
only
you all-
4 of those.
Okay, there's only 4. And then there's the 1 bedrooms, 224 to 310, 2 bedrooms, 321 to 475. And, the Grand Cal ranges, when you go to Deluxe Studio, they are 129 to 194 points per week. So unless you're going with the Garden Studio, that one's considerably higher. But again, there's only 4 of those. The 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms are for the most part lower. And I did some comparisons on my YouTube channel that I posted video earlier today. And it seems like most of the weeks for 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms are lower, but the deluxe studios, there's more variety in that one, depending on the week. I think it's April. Pretty much it's going to be more expensive to stay at Disneyland, but you're not because there's 7 seasons for the Disneyland Hotel and there's 4 seasons for the Grand Cal, you really can't compare apples to apples. You really kind of have to go with whatever week you're going to travel in. So that's the difference.
Right.
But that is the majority of the bullet points there. So, I mean, 273. Let's talk about the transient tax. So the transient occupancy tax, that is going to be paid by when you stay. So if you stay and you're
it's Alani style. Yeah.
Right. So if I have Disneyland villas at Disneyland Points, but I stay at Saratoga Springs, which I don't know why I would do that, but I stay there, I don't have to pay that tax. But if I use my Saratoga Springs points and stay at the Disneyland Tower, then I'm going to pay that tax, even though those points are Saratoga Springs.
Right.
So that's what the transient occupancy tax is. So that $2.73. So if I stay for a week, it's 100 points. I'm going to be paying $273 out at checkout. For studio, for studio, it's not that big of a deal. When you're talking
two bedrooms,
yeah, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, so I calculated out for Friday, Saturday, and then Thursday or Monday. So a 3-night, like a holiday weekend, and peak times, you're looking at $750 for a 2-bedroom in transient tax. I'm just like, holy bejeebers.
Yeah.
On top of paying $230 a point, on top of all the points that you have to use to do that, it's just like mind blown.
So, okay. So again, I'm not saying I love this. Why are people mad at Disney and calling them greedy because Anaheim imposed this tax? Do you think Disney said, hey, we want to...
It was part of the negotiation from what I understand, Pete.
It was right. It was part of the negotiation because Disney did not have the right to build a timeshare. They were allowed to build the very few. There's only 48 rooms or something like that. 48 2-bedrooms. If you split up the lock-offs, it's a little bit more. At the Grand Californian,
are the dues at a tower $1.50 a point higher when you factor out the transient tax from Grand Cal on a brand new resort?
It's right, exactly. It's a brand new resort. They had to build a pool. They had to build the entire tower.
This is maintenance dues, Pete. This isn't building costs. Building costs gets paid for by the price per point.
But it's maintenance of all the things. The Grand Californian, it's just a couple of rooms in a hotel. So
but they also have pools. We're also sharing this with Disneyland Hotel that has 3 other towers. I understand that,
but we also know ever since Olani, they've always hit the first initial price. What was Riviera's initial price for theirs? It was like over $8 when Riviera opened 4 years ago. It was like $8.20 for their initial cost for their dues.
Their dues.
In that time, in 4 years, it's gone up 30 cents. Meanwhile, the Grand Californian has gone up in that same amount of time, and I forget the exact amount, but like $1.40 in the same time that Riviera has gone up 30 cents. Ever since they had that debacle with Alani, where they were basically punished for having the dues too low, they've been very nervous about starting with too low dues. I would not be surprised. Yes, the dues are high. They're not, in my view, not astronomically high. But I could easily see that in 4 or 5 years, Grand Cal is up $1 and these are only up 20 cents. And now all of a sudden they're almost the same. So
the dues with the transient tax, because it's a total deal.
I get it.
Puts this the second most expensive resort that's out there.
The
only thing that's more expensive than this is Vero. Yeah. Hilton Head is cheaper. And they get hit by hurricanes.
Yes, I get it. The transient tax is ridiculous, but I don't know. Again, Disney's options were probably either you don't build a timeshare or you tax it at this rate. And Disney said, we want to build a timeshare. We're going to tax it at this rate. You have the right to say, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't disagree with that. But to say Disney is doing it because they're greedy, I don't think that's right. I don't think and even the dues. I mean, those are they have to, like, when you go in to buy this, they will provide you a list of what those dues are going towards.
And there's management fees and everything else built into there.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a tower, which is the most efficient, energy efficient stuff with the latest and greatest energy efficient windows and technology.
So efficient, why is it $8.50 in Florida then for the dues at Riviera? I mean, isn't that it is?
You got a Skyliner to operate in it there. Here in California, you have no Skyliner, you have no buses, you have no transportation costs, you have no water features to do that you do in Walt Disney World. This is just like really, 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 really high. Is it California high? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
I think it is California high.
You think the cost of operation in Florida and California is the same?
I think you're getting a larger scale of efficiency on a single tower like this, where it's one tower, one building with one L-shaped wing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, are they greedy because they're looking for 230 instead of 217? Yeah. You know, are they maxing out? This is Disney we're talking about. Points for Riviera are ridiculous. They've been doing this for years. We all sat here going, you know, yeah, we'd like to think that it's going to be lower points per night than Grand Californian, but we were all saying it's probably going to be the same. It is almost the same. Sure. We're totally expecting it. Is the location as good as Grand Californian? No. Grand California is a better location. If you
are the rooms, and do you have the extra bathroom here? No. So you didn't have that expense to come back in and build this on. I'm just expressing why people are so upset with this.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And that's what we read in the post after post after post after post.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it was a period of mourning yesterday.
Yeah, for sure.
Super fans who are planning on buying this we just had our balloon popped. Like,
yeah.
But I'm still thinking to myself, it's like, you know, people were going to drop down $35,000 for this thing. It's like, oh no, it's going to be $250 extra for the weekend. That's ridiculous. You know, I don't know. I looked at it and I went, oh yeah, that's going to be
plus like $30-$40 a day parking. I'm not sure what they're getting in Walt Disney World these days.
Well,
over in California these days.
Now, the one thing with there is they said May, so we don't know yet for sure if they're going to be charging.
Why would you put that in there? Why would you put that in there if you weren't going to do it?
Well, I agree. But it could also be that they have limited parking for DVC, and if that fills up, then they force you to pay or something like that. I don't know. I do agree with that. That's rotten. For me, I probably wouldn't have a car anyways, so it doesn't bother me particularly. But yeah, I would get why people, because every other DVC you get free parking. So I would agree that one to me is actually in a way the worst, even worse than the transient.
Here's what I predict happening. I predict Disneyland buyers may buy this, but it's going to make getting into Grand Cal at the 7-month mark even worse, because if I did own Tower Hotel at 7 months, I'm going to be trying to switch over to Grand Cal to where I get free parking and I don't have to pay those stupid taxes. And I get a 1-bedroom that actually has 2 bathrooms in it, or a 2-bedroom that has 3 bathrooms in it.
Right. But
it's just trying to get that inventory. And that's going to be the hard thing, because, you know, there's very few rooms at Grand Cal. So I think this is the only other Disneyland DVC property that they have. And they know that they've got a market out there because they've got all these people on that coast and from Nevada over who were trying to get into Grand Cal. But even with points, they may not be able to book 11 months in advance and get 3 nights in a row. So, you know, I can understand why they're charging what they're charging as far as the price goes. I would have done the same thing that they did at Grand Cal and buried the transient tax or hotel occupancy tax into the dues, but then the dues would have been much higher.
And I think that's the reason they didn't, is because, as I said, I'm sure, and for those that don't know, there is a transient tax at the Grand Californian. It's only about 50 cents per point. It's actually buried in your dues versus here where they took it out. I think the reason they took it out because I mean, people are upset now. Could you see how upset they would have been if they had been told that the dues were going to be
$11.
$11.75?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been
So,
crazy. But
yeah.
it is to the benefit of the owners for that to be separate. Because
Absolutely.
to your point, Shannon,
Yep.
if you use your tower, like if you
You're
buy
right.
that direct and you stay elsewhere on those points, then you don't have to pay that tax.
Right.
Mhm.
And even a resale owner, if you buy there, you know when you use your points, you're going to be paying that. But if for whatever reasons your points expire and you don't get to use them, you're not paying the tax.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit better that they're not there, but
Yeah.
I'm still like completely the net result of this is just got sticker shock going.
Well,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, because
Yep.
I look at it as what's it actually costing me per night, and you're looking at, again, I'm not looking at holidays, but I'm looking at if I buy 50 points and I bank and borrow and everything for my trips that are going to be out there. I'm not going for holidays, but it's still, if I want a studio, it's going to cost me $350 a night to stay there.
Mhm.
And do I want to stay there versus paying $150 a night, let's say, at somewhere on Harbor Boulevard, which is
Or the
nice,
Marriott
nice
for
enough
like
hotels.
200 and
They're
something. Yeah.
yeah, they're clean, and I can totally see the argument for doing that. But for myself, I talked to my wife, and we both kind of said the same thing: is that if 5 years from now we're staying at the Tropicana and we're paying $150 a night, and we're looking over at the DVC Tower and going, man, I wish we had bought that. Are we gonna have regretted that we didn't buy it? And we feel like we are. You're still paying a lot less than you would pay at the Disneyland Resort Hotel. You're paying less, certainly a lot less than you would pay at the Grand Californian. Yeah, it's high. There's no doubt it's high. It's higher than we thought it would be, because I said no one expected the almost $3 transient tax per point, which is going to be, as I said, for a studio it's going to be 40 to 50, $60 a night, which is a lot. It definitely is. And if you got a car, it's going to be another $30 a night or something.
30, 40, 50,
Yep.
we don't know. Like,
Yeah, we don't even know. So I'm not denying that it's a lot of money. It really is. But if you want to stay on property at Disneyland, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other comments on Disneyland here, or any new things to bring up? Because our comments are out here just getting lit up.
Yeah, let's bring them up.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to start to go through these. Somebody on Facebook says, total shocker, paying tax at Aulani makes sense for a state that depends on it as a main part of the economy. And we do get parking there as DVC members.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
I'm down with the Aulani thing. It makes sense. It was a Hawaiian tax, and they said they are not allowed to bake that into the dues. So they didn't. And then somebody said Resale wouldn't pay the tax if they rented too. Actually, they would pay the tax.
Well, if you rented out your points, whoever rented them would pay the tax.
Whoever you pay it
Right.
at checkout, right? So
Right. So whoever's using the points and staying there.
Yep. So Nick says, if this were opening in Hawaii, we would not be shocked. We were just not used to the transient tax for California. And we are used to the paradise tax in Hawaii. Okay. Like, yeah.
Yep.
I guess Southern California, you might as well just call that paradise tax 2.0, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And let me come back into some other ones here. This is where we need Gina, because she's actually commenting.
Frederica in the My DVC Points community put the reminder that Californians drive to Disneyland. So just like myself, I drive to the Walt Disney World. So that's bringing the car. Also, with bringing the car, when we went, we stayed 6 nights and we rented a car, because renting a car for essentially a week was cheaper than trying to find transportation to and from LAX. And then since we had free parking, this was when we stayed at Grand Californian. It was cheaper than trying to find transportation to and from LAX. So that's another reason why a lot of people drive.
Car rentals are dirt cheap in LA at times.
Yeah.
That market can get flooded.
Mhm.
We went there for a week and it was under $200 to rent a car for an entire
Yeah,
week.
that's how it was for us. And then we ended up getting like an SUV. And we ended up going to an event at Angel Stadium. So we had the car. It was great.
I mean,
Then Gina put, don't forget that SoCal real estate is insane.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Vicky
now put it right
Vicky
next to the theme
commented-
park.
Yeah. I think Vicky commented in here
Go ahead
that,
and click those and bring those up, guys.
yeah. Vicky said, it's not California high, it's just SoCal normal. So I think people that live out there in California are kind of like, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
How much is gas out there now?
I think it's like 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do have transient tax at the Grand Californian. Maybe they just negotiated a much better deal there.
Well, clearly they did, because I said it's
Yeah.
50 cents instead of 273. So
Yeah,
per point.
And Rob is also pointing out if they include this in the dues, it means you have to pay it even if you don't use your points at Grand Cal, which I do think this is a benefit for owners. I'm
Yeah.
just like in sticker shock and going, what the heck happened here with the negotiations on the state? And did you just sell us under the river just to get a tower built there? So I'm really curious as to how all of those negotiations went down. And Caleb is saying resale restrictions here are pretty much only mean you won't stay at the Impossible to get Grand Cal if you buy the Disneyland Tower resale. That said, you must book 11 to 7 months out if you are sunk. And that was another topic that came up today. I know in our Disneyland Grand Cal or Disneyland Hotel owners group, somebody did one of those, buying resale and waiting for the resale points to hit the market and buying them is better than buying this direct. Change my mind here. And I went, I really can't if you're only going to stay there, right? Because
Right.
if I did buy direct, I would probably only use them there.
Right.
I'd have the option to use them elsewhere, but for the most part, they're just like a small part of my portfolio I'm adding on to for the occasional every 2 year, maybe every year Disneyland trip, as opposed to how often we use the Walt Disney World stuff.
That's kind of where I'm at. Because we're only looking at 50 points, right? So 50 points, we're not going to get any incentives. We're not going to get perks with the 50 points. So there's really nothing. And we're nearly not ready to shell out $12,000 because that's what it would be. So maybe I'll wait and see what, because there's going to be something that hits the resale market. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's going to be buyer's remorse that happens. I think it was on sale for 3 months before the first Riviera contract hit the market.
Came up. Yep.
It was pretty fast. It was pretty fast as well.
Yeah. Now it does take a couple years before you get a number of contracts on the market, but you will see some contracts appear, within 6 months or so. But
yeah. And when Riviera hit, it was about $30, $40 off per point. And it seems to be hovering there with incentives as to about what it is. Cause usually the buyer they want out of the, forget the cheese, let me out of the trap is the mindset here. So
Right.
they've put 10% down on this. And so whatever they've paid down, a lot of times they don't want to try to bring money to the table.
Right.
So it's just pay off what I owe and let me out of this.
Yep.
And forget the cheese, just let me out of the trap. That's it. When that's the mindset of those sellers. And when it gets to a critical mass hitting the resale market, which I don't think Riviera is there yet, but I thought it would be. And it's just because it's not sold as much because of this.
Right.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Riviera isn't Riviera selling around 140, 150,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So
Yep.
I don't picture this necessarily being quite as cheap as Riviera will be because of
Oh, I agree with you there.
people will be more eager to, like, as you just said, if you're buying this, you're buying it to stay at
Right.
the Disneyland Resort. So the resale restrictions will not turn you off. Whereas there is some of that at in Florida that I buy Riviera, I'm stuck at Riviera. I buy Saratoga, I can stay everywhere but Riviera, right?
And the Disneyland Tower Hotel.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in the Disneyland Tower, but I'm saying in Florida, I can stay everywhere but Riviera right now, anyways. I mean, eventually that might change, but so I think that yes, you'll save some money if you wait a couple years and buy points, resale. But it might not be as much as we see at Riviera is all I'm saying, because I think the demand for resale will be higher.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's their only other property out there. So I think it's going to sell, and it's going to sell well.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
We'll
You
see.
don't have any other choice.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know if this is like just the initial sticker shock of all of this, and everybody's going to like come back in, think about it, take it in, and like, okay, I'll work through this and process it. But I know this thing is going over like a lead balloon at this point in time. Hopefully I'm right in the fact that we'll process it, adapt it, and start to move forward with it anyways. I'm hoping that is the case, because I really had my hopes up for a great contract here. I was even looking at getting 150 points in a different use year, just because I know I'm going to be Disney till I'm dead. Like it's they'll my kids, I told them they're going to be pushing me in a wheelchair. Right. And they can get the contracts in my will they're in my estate plan. Like, as long as you guys end up pushing me in my wheelchair, that's all I'm asking.
Well,
just remember, you have to borrow your points every year, Chad, so that when you die, you can say that you took next year's vacation before you died.
So I can just hose them out of that one last year.
That's right. You paid for it.
Well, actually, I'm going to make them pay for it, right? Because they're going to pay the dues on that year that I borrowed after
That's
I
right.
Right.
That's right.
That's the estate plan.
I was looking, and I'm going to be 105 when this contract runs out. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get to use it all.
And Pete gets a shout out here from Rob. Look at Pete, the voice of reason.
Maybe I'm not the voice of reason. I might be I'm the rose colored glasses kind of like.
You're Pollyanna.
Who cares?
We're gonna start calling you Pete Pollyanna, or Pollyanna Pete.
Pollyanna Pete. But
I like that.
At least Brian Flock is with me here saying, but what infrastructure are the dues going to? Parking paid separately, a small pool, no restaurant, no transport, electric bills. Like
Housekeeping, electric, the bedding, the operating costs. It's all tied in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're
saying. I think you're going to find that they're high right now, and because we saw it happen at Copper Creek, we saw it happen at Riviera. They started out really high, and we're like, why is the dues so high? I mean, it's the same thing, Riviera. It's a massive resort. Why are the dues so high? Well, now, 4 years after it opens, you look at Riviera, and it's like, oh, now the dues aren't so high because everybody else is up to $8 anyways.
Yeah.
So
Riviera is now middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the
average dues right now are $895 with a median of $851, because I did this. And right now Riviera is at $850. Right. So it is right there at the median and middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this, Grand Flow's the lowest. Again, it's the tower efficiency factor and the amount of points that it takes to stay there. And so my theory is like, it costs X amount for mousekeeping. And I don't care if the mousekeeper goes to Grand Flow or to Saratoga, but at Grand Flow, you've got more points of dues to pay for mousekeeping.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's kind of a simple division factor, right? We're going to get cheaper dues here just because of the amount of points that it takes to stay there.
Right.
But I'm looking at the point charts here going, this ain't cheap. Like yeah. And maybe it's housekeeping in Southern California is, more than it is here in Florida.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they're paying their employees in California. So we know what they're paying them in Florida, but
going up to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Grand Californian is 10% less than the median. So at 804, it's Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
and
got
they
the
just-
math here.
and
It
that's
doesn't
true.
lie.
They just raised the minimum wage or the wages in Florida by $2 a point. So expect that our dues at all of our Florida resorts are going up 6-7% next year.
Yep.
So
Which is true because they've probably already accounted for that here in Disneyland Tower, and it's coming in Florida because last time the cast members got a huge pay raise, we paid it in dues,
That's
which
right.
I do not mind 100%. I am 100% in support of paying our cast members a livable wage, even if it means higher dues. I will die on that hill. And
No, I agree.
it is yeah. We've got to pay these people a living wage. I can tell you from living in Orlando near the mouse, it is not cheap to live here. And Shannon has it worse in South Florida. Yeah, it's crazy here. It's getting up there. It used to be a cheap southern state, not so much.
Nope.
Yeah.
So okay. Frederica also says you also have to take into factor in your deal here that the history between Anaheim and Disney and how they fought, made up. And this is one of the fight makeups, right? And I think we're paying for it in that transient tax.
Yep.
The other thing that I have heard on here from multiple members that I want to bring into the conversation is they're not happy that none of the studios at this place has a balcony. We are paying as high a prices at Grand Cal and every place else, and we got no balcony. And no balcony should mean no sliding doors, should mean more energy efficient, should mean cheaper dues, which again, it gets back into the why are the dues thing. So yeah, but I will let that one go is because we did know for some time now, looking at floor plans, as soon as those dropped, we knew they didn't have balconies on the studios.
Well,
We just didn't know how they were classifying them as views until it went on sale or until they were doing the cash sales for the rooms. And that's when we learned about the 3 different booking categories and views there.
Right. Because some of the studios do have, as they put it, the select rooms offer an outdoor patio or balcony in some of the deluxe studios.
Yeah, that's just the garden. So the garden studios, garden duos, whatever. Also those 4, there's 4 of each, do have a patio or a balcony, depending on those are the ones that are going to be by the pool. They're going to be the same size, but they are going to have a balcony in addition. So your view is basically going to be of the pool.
I would argue that is the base standard at Grand Cal, because that is the worst view there is the pool side. The theme park side is absolutely amazing.
No, because I've stayed at the Grand California, and I'm going to tell you the worst view is the Redwood Forest Trail, the back of the Redwood Forest Trail, which is basically you look out and you look at trees.
But you know what? I'd rather look at trees, Pete, than I would rather than look at houses that were built for $30,000 on Walnut Avenue.
A parking lot, yeah.
Right? I mean, the back of that tower is looking into a residential area.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would much rather look at Disney's fake trees and redwoods than that. Okay. At least I'm quasi nature looking at the Redwood Trail.
Yeah.
But Brian points out that it's nickel and diming for a resort surrounded by hotels within walking distance that cost a quarter of the price on a per night basis.
Right. But they're not selling this to compete with the Howard Johnsons up the block. They're selling this to compete with themselves.
And they believe they have a market, and you can look at it. It's not all that easy to book a cash room at any of the Disney resorts. Cash rooms there are still difficult to book. And as long as they're difficult to book, then demand is greater than supply. So I don't think they see that curve changing even with a brand new tower here.
Yeah. And as I said, I'm not arguing here that this is value accommodations or whatever you want to call it. You know, it is very expensive, but I can't be that surprised by it because, as I said, to me, my biggest complaint would be the parking, because I think it's very unfair that every other DVC includes parking, which is very expensive. And now you're suddenly going to say, On top
It
of
could
everything else,
be,
I got to pay for parking.
right?
That's
Just-
the nickel and dime to me.
Just playing devil's advocate here, Pete. Okay. It could be, remember that Disneyland Forever concept that we talked about, where they said, hey, we're going to build another gate and we're going to surround all of Disneyland. And somebody on Facebook says, I wonder when the new phase of the parks that wrap around the hotels, aka Disneyland Forever, there will be some DVD infrastructure they're planning for, a separate entrance into the parks, but that's going to kill off a lot of parking if they come back in and do that. So they could be just covering their tails in case Disneyland Forever happens and we don't have the parking to offer members. Then they could at least say, well, when we initially gave this to you guys, we told you you might have to pay for parking.
Right.
Guess what? Disneyland Forever happened. You guys got to pay for parking.
Yeah. So
Good
we
point.
don't, and you're right. We don't know for sure that they are going to charge for parking out of the gate. We just don't know that.
Nope. All we've got is
All we got is that
May.
they might.
Right.
all we have is a disclaimer, but historically Disney and disclaimers,
If they come
get
true.
ready to pay. Right? Yeah. Yeah. They're going to take you for everything that they can.
Okay, so do we have any other comments before we move on? Because well, I'm kind of in the middle, right? I think it's put a pause for us and our family, but I'm not shocked about really anything. It's just doing the math. It's kind of like, well, I don't know if this really makes sense for as often as we may go to California. But I don't think I'm with Sue that I think it is going to sell. Like I don't think it's going, the resale restrictions don't that has nothing to do with whether or not I buy, like no input, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but do we have any other comments in the chat before we move on?
Yeah. So Nick mentions that the Disneyland Hotel does have an extra bathroom in the 1 to 3 bedrooms, like the Grand Californian, Kidani, and Bay Lake Tower does. He is excited, and May 2nd can't get here soon enough. And I notice Frederica says our utilities, especially electric, are about 2 to 3 times the rest of the nation.
And water's super expensive there as well.
Yeah.
And in very, very, very limited supply. That we do know.
Yeah.
And Eddie makes this great point. The best part of DVC is getting that bill slipped under the door the night before checkout and seeing a zero balance. Yeah. Not here. Okay. Not Alani. Not here.
Well, you can pay the transient tax first, and then.
Yeah.
I just feel like, as I said, I think Californians in particular are going to be like, it's expensive. We're used to that.
For me, I'm glad I did not sell off my Copper Creek and have a boatload of cash sitting here ready to buy this. I am 100% glad that happened, because now I'm like, if I can get in, great, on points. If I can't get in on points, no big deal either. I will just stay at the Embassy Suites 2-3 miles away for $200 a night. That includes an omelet bar, breakfast buffet. Like I'm really not disappointed in that.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
And that's a question we won't know for a while Grand Californian, very obviously, very, very hard to get into at 7 months. Studio's basically impossible. Even the 1-2 bedrooms, sometimes you get lucky, but a lot of times not. Is this going to be different? It's got a ton of studios.
That's my thought too.
Right.
Are you going to be able to? Yeah, it's gonna book very quickly at 7 months, but is it going to be available a lot at 7 months that you can grab that studio with your points from Animal Kingdom
And
or wherever?
if you're a family of 5, get ready to pay for 2 studios.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or a duo and a studio or something along those lines. Because
Right.
none of them sleep 5. It's like, that was one of the things that lesson learned from Poly and Copper Creek. We had it at Poly. We got rid of it at Copper Creek. We threw a fit. Riviera, they finally did it right. Split bathrooms in the studio,
Mhm.
everything. Sleeps 5, you can
Mhm.
accommodate it. And then this just took a major step backwards in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I don't really get this. Why you don't have 5 in the. You're converting all the studios.
So they get
in-
larger families to purchase
Florida.
more points. That's why.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. because that way it frees up the studios for people like my family that has, that just
Four or
has one
less.
kid, right?
Yep.
So that it's that if you have more kids, if you want to stay here, you are forced to buy more points. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I'll say we've gone to Disneyland twice, right? We went to Grand California, which was fantastic. And then the last time we went and we stayed at the Hilton, and it was nice. I mean, it was not as convenient. But it was walking distance. It was walking distance. And, but it was still a great trip, and that was right after. That was July 2021. So it was dirt cheap. I think they had just reopened. So, it's a different experience. And it's like I would compare it to staying at the All-Stars compared to staying at, Bay Lake Tower, Polynesian, or Grand California or Grand Floridian, right? You have those easy access to the parks, but you're still, well, I guess with the at the All-Stars, you're not crossing homeless people, but but for the most part, it's walking distance. It's close. I didn't have to take a bus, which I loved. So it's just I think we'll probably try and use our Saratoga points and see, especially in the beginning, especially the first couple of years, it might be a little bit easier, because my thought is if you get a lot of Californians that purchase, they're probably not used to planning out vacations 11 months in advance or 7 months in advance.
It's true. Yeah.
That
Because
could be.
I told Pete this before we recorded an episode about a week or two ago. I completely forgot about booking our trip this year. And I ended up booking at 7 months. The day I just kind of looked and I was like, oh crap, I need to look. And I was able to get, fortunately we were booking a 1-bedroom, so it wasn't a problem, but I forgot. And in the beginning, when you're first a DVC member, you don't forget. Well, I forgot to bank my 11 extra points this year, because I've owned and I've just forgotten. You forget how important those things are. And, I was like, man, rookie mistake. But I think that happens. And I think it won't be as difficult. And I wouldn't mind paying the transient tax with my Saratoga points.
Yeah.
Because I got those for $72.
And that's what I was saying. We don't know what it's going to be like to get in. It may be fair. I don't think ever it's going to be easy. I would feel pretty confident that at 7 months, everything will go. But there may be many opportunities, it may be much easier than like trying to get in a studio at Copper Creek in December. Right. I mean,
Yep.
it may be something that's available there at 7 months, most of the year. We just don't know.
Lauren Rice Springs comments, who is a travel agent that focuses on California clientele. She says Californians usually book Disneyland 3 to 4 months prior. At least that's been her experience with her clients.
Yeah.
So they might have to learn about that 7-month window.
Right.
And
well, it's like I compared to Floridians. I've met people down here that are like, oh, my family had DVC. It's awful. You can never get a room. And because we're used to picking out a room and booking a room and going, in a month or two.
Yep.
Even now with the park reservations, that has been an issue, because I know people that they got to Disney and they didn't have park reservations, and they're texting me saying, hey, how do you know how I can get into Disney World? I'm like, you can't,
Right.
But it's just there's a different mentality. And I would think that in California, it's probably the same thing, especially for those people that stay on site. So a lot of people can't adjust. They can't adjust that. And that's where I think you might get those resale contracts, because people are like, well, this stuff is crap because I can never get in.
Yeah, for sure. And Sheila and I did the same calculation. Even though even with that transient tax and everything like that, you're still paying about half of what it would be for a cash room at the Disneyland Hotel. So if you want to stay at the Disneyland Hotel, it's still not a bad way to go.
Right.
Even with all these extra fees. So
yeah. Okay, so I think we do have another story. so, so that is there's our rant. We did have another story, and this was a surprise. So there's the Guardians of the Galaxy Screen and Scream. It's an exclusive DVC member event. It's going to be on May 4th. There is a 2 p.m. screening of Guardians at AMC Disney Springs, or a voucher for a later screening. And then it's also going to include Epcot after hours from 10. I think it says 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Is that correct?
No, 10 p.m.
10
to 1
p.m. Yeah.
10 p.m.
So it says it's 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Access to World Discovery, including Guardians and Test Track, and presumably Mission Space. But I don't know why you would waste your time. Price is $89 per person plus tax. The sign up was April 19th at 11 a.m. And did it sell out? Do we know?
Just today. I was just going to try to go on.
And so
try to get in, Pete. I got in pretty easy, and I even did it like after the 11 a.m. time, and I still made it in to get reservations.
Yeah.
I think it's because it was so last minute that you didn't really have a chance to put something together.
yeah,
And it's also on a Thursday.
it's on a
which-
Thursday. Yeah.
The other part that we thought was really weird here was you're doing this on May the 4th,
Which is Star Wars Day.
Why
Right.
not lease out Star Wars for us? Okay.
Right.
Lease out Galaxy's Edge and do a $90 party. That'd been awesome
Well,
for
it's-
DVC members.
because it's an ad for Guardians of the Galaxy. But so I just went on, and as of 10 p.m. Eastern, it is still available to sign up. So
Yeah. So you
can
can
still,
the members.
you can still register if you're watching this live. You'd still go on and register.
So members and you can do a member and plus 4 guests. So
Yeah. Our editor, Dave, made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. He lives in South Florida by Shannon. And he's like, Chad, I want to bring the boys. If we stay at your house, I'll buy your ticket. I'm like, come on up.
It's a great deal.
that is a great deal.
I was like, come on, Dave. Like,
Well, those, I mean, if it wasn't on a Thursday, if it had been on a weekend, I would have done it because those are Ryder's 2 favorite rides, right? I would have totally done a day trip. And because those are his 2 favorite rides. I mean, that kid can stay up till 1 a.m. easily. I maybe fall asleep, but he would be fine. But it was just so last minute and not able to plan that and get, time off. So, but that sounds like fun. I mean, it sounds like a really great event. It sounds like fun.
It does.
yeah, I'm not too upset about the price on that either, because you were going to be in for $15-17 for the movie ticket anyways. By the time you bought that, and then a night at Disneyland, that's still, or a night at Epcot, let me state, for a quarter of the attractions or that little section, it's still not a bad price, all things said and done.
Well, I've been
Yeah.
paying for the 3 of us, I've probably been paying $50 to ride Guardians once with the lightning
Right.
lane.
Right.
Yeah, well,
So,
And you got to figure you'd probably with the limited number of people, you probably get on it 5-6 times if you wanted
Yeah.
to.
Mhm.
you might even just be able to stay on it by the end of the night, Pete, because if they're
Yeah.
still not selling this thing out,
My God.
it could be just last minute that they didn't advertise it and give everybody a chance to does have an annual pass again. Again, it gets back to that AP thing. Well, I have my annual pass. Oh, this is a special event at Disney. I'm just going to flock down.
yeah.
And we did it for our listener meetup. I can't tell you how many people that didn't plan on coming, but now at the last minute, they're going, it's only $200 a night to stay over at All Stars or whatever. We'll just stay there. And it's a special event. We want to come down. And that's just in our community. So Disney throws a special event party. People are going to come,
Yeah.
especially if they've got annual passes.
But I still think, doing this type of thing, the event that I got to do last year when we went and they had Jody Benson at Art Smith's homecoming, and it was only announced like the week before, but we happened to be there, so we were able to sign up for it. Those are great. Yes, okay, not a lot of people have the opportunity to do it, but if they're doing it once a month or something like that, eventually as a member, you will get that opportunity to do something like this. So I hope they keep looking at things like this to do for the members.
It's a nice justification for the money you're going to spend on the blue card.
Right.
right? It's little tiny things like this that'll add up and go, yeah, I'm glad I bought a blue card. Or it will make people go, I wish I had one.
Right.
I'm going to go buy the 150 direct.
Yeah.
It's the surprise and delight aspect. You know, and when I was first a member of DVC way back when, 1991, I mean, we would get things like postcards from Old Key West in the mail, just as you might want to send these out to people. Or the day that they gave us a cookbook with all the different soups from Olivia's. And, you know, those were special things. I can remember being on, at that time, it was AOL Online, DVC with AOL Online, and we had chat rooms. And you'd get on and you'd say, I got this from Disney today. And it might be a sticker, but you were so happy and proud to be a DVC member. Just the little things like that that mean an awful lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 100% down with that as well.
Yep. So
I wish I
we
were
all
here
still
for
love
the
our
fourth.
membership. Just not all of us are going to be
Now
buying
this
it.
this was this
Disneyland.
event was for blue card members.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, if it doesn't sell out, you think they're going to open it up to more people?
No.
No. Okay. I'm just curious. I mean, that would be the smart thing to do, but
I don't think they're going to spend too awful much to rent a quarter of the park for 3 hours. So I think that's a fixed cost that they have to spend.
yeah.
And having the exclusivity and the dangling the carrot in front of everybody going, you should have been a blue card
Yep.
Mhm.
is worth it for the FOMO. 'Cause
Yeah. No, and I would think they're probably going to have a bunch of Guardian characters. Going to have Groot for character. I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah,
They're going to have character meets.
Yeah, they said that they would.
Okay.
They're going to
Yeah.
have some unusual characters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you'll probably have Star-Lord and Gamora and, as you say, Groot out and everything. So
And knowing Disney, they will probably be in the new outfits from the new movie. If anything's
Yeah.
changed, or we'll see the teenage Groot, not the baby Groot, kind of a deal. Or in the previews, he's got a bunch of branches with guns coming out of his back. We might get to see that,
no guns.
right? I don't know. They're still in Frontierland, Pete. So they hadn't pulled those out of there yet. Although we didn't even cover that rumor of Frontierland. That just makes me sad. I'll just enough ranting for tonight, Chad.
Newscast
We don't
doesn't
do
cover
rumors. We
rumors.
don't do rumors. We
Yep.
don't. This is new show. But
Yep.
that is it for today's episode. Anybody else have any? Well, Chad, you live there, so I was like, when's your next trip? My trip's not till June.
Mine-
You're in
mine's
May.
May 20th. We're coming down.
Oh, that's right. They're bring the daughter down.
Bring the daughter down for the college program and bringing Chad his sponge candy.
Yes, yes. And your sins will be forgiven, Pete. So I will say this before the show tonight at about 6:00, I thought, oh yeah, we can start going in with our annual passes with no reservations today. So I popped over there, and sure enough, I went to Hollywood, did a loop around the whole park, and then came back here to record. And sure enough, you do not need a reservation. It was so incredibly nice to just band in and go.
Yep.
Yes.
And say at the last minute, I think I want to go to Disney tonight.
Now-
Let me just
now let's-
pop over there.
Now let's move it to noon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So Shannon, do you want me to go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, you can go ahead
today?
and wrap it up.
Okay. Well, that puts another episode of the My DVC Points podcast and a joint one with the newscast team here in the books. I'd like to give a huge shout out of thanks to our sponsors over at DVC Resale Market, DVC Rental Store, and Monera Financial. And also, I don't get to record with Sue enough, so I want to give Sue a huge plug out because I don't think people don't know, because you're not telling us enough, Sue, that you can help people buy and sell contracts.
I certainly can. Sue at dvcresalemarket.com.
And is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Or I'll give you my number, 407-738-0696.
That is awesome. And if you guys like hearing Sue here, you can call her and work with her on buying, selling a contract, asking other DVC questions. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. And as always, tell them you've heard about them here on the My DVC Points podcast and the DVC newscast families as well. So hopefully you've joined this conversation, you've joined this debate, you've learned something in here. Maybe we've been corrected or we've helped you cope with the disappointment from Disneyland Tower. However, we hope that we were a blessing to you. I'm still going to look at this. I'm not going to say I'm 100% out yet, but I'm looking like I am. But I do want you guys to make an informed and educated decision about what's best for your family. And that's why we host these conversations, these debates, and get really live and interactive with our audience, is to bring up all of these different views and learn from each other and ultimately make better decisions and plan something magical for our family. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Chad. Bye
Bye.
everybody.